The moment I walked into that boardroom and saw my best friend sitting in my chair, smiling like he owned the place, I knew I'd been stabbed in the back. They say betrayal feels like a punch to the gut. But this felt like I'd been buried alive. The company we built from scratch, the idea that came from my garage, the investors I brought in, all of it gone. And the worst part, he didn't even flinch. That was the day I lost everything. But it was also the day I started planning to take it all back. I still remember the moment I realized I'd been stabbed in the back. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting, no lawsuits flying across desks, no whiskey glasses thrown at the wall. It was a quiet Tuesday 9:13 a.m. when I tried to log into our shared company dashboard and the system told me, "Access denied." At first, I thought it was just a glitch. Happens all the time. Maybe the servers were acting up or IT was doing a reset. I texted my partner, my best friend, Marcus, and he replied with a thumbs up emoji. Just that. A damn thumbs up. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. Let me rewind. Marcus and I had been friends since college. We met during sophomore year, two broke business majors at UT Austin, pulling all-nighters and living off vending machine burritos. We had dreams of building something real, something ours. And after graduation, we did. We founded an online logistics platform out of a garage. Worked 16-hour days, blew through our savings, got laughed out of 10 pitch meetings. But we kept going. 5 years later, we had 42 employees, 2 angel investors, and our company Swift Track was starting to make real noise in the supply chain tech world. And Marcus, he was more than just a co-founder. He was the best man at my wedding. My drinking buddy. My daughter's godfather. When my wife had her miscarriage, he stayed up with me for 2 nights straight. When he lost his mom, I flew with him across the country and didn't leave his side. So yeah, when I got that access denied message, I thought it had to be a mistake. But it wasn't. When I finally reached someone from the accounting team on Slack off the record, they told me I'd been officially relieved of duties as of that morning. Marcus filed a board vote to remove me. And he destacked the board, slowly and quietly, with new members I barely knew. I was in shock. He didn't even call. Didn't even have the guts to tell me to my face. The worst part, I didn't see it coming. But maybe I should be. There were signs. Subtle at first, delays in seeing financial reports, calendar invites mysteriously disappearing, investors asking me about decisions I never heard of. Then came the hiring spree, people Marcus brought in without running it by me. His late night meetings. A few clients switching to a different sales team, his team. I was being pushed out in plain sight. And I'd let it happen. The week after I got locked out, I didn't leave the house. My wife, well, ex-wife now, didn't even seem surprised. She just looked at me like I'd failed at something inevitable. Our marriage had been slipping for a while. I was never around. Always working, always just one more email. And maybe she was right. Maybe I lost myself in the company. But it was all I had. All we had. Until Marcus took it. But here's the thing he didn't know, or maybe forgot. Before we launched Swift Track, I'd built the core infrastructure. The product. The algorithm. The backend that powered our real-time route optimizer, the engine every client depended on. It was my code, my design, my brainchild. And even though we decommercialized and built around it, the original source lived somewhere only I could reach. Buried in a cloud server no one else even knew existed. And I'd kept it, not out of paranoia, just out of habit. Developers back up everything. It was just insurance. Now, it was the leverage I didn't know I'd need. But I didn't act right away. I was too angry. Too ashamed. I felt like a fool. A grown man, blindsided by someone I trusted more than my own brother. I kept replaying every memory, the handshakes, the promises, the beers at 2 a.m. when we swore we'd always have each other's backs. All lies. But that week of silence, of grief, turned into something sharper. A fire started to build inside me. Not revenge. Not yet. Just a need to understand, why did Marcus betray me, and what was he hiding that made him so desperate to push me out? I started digging. Quietly. Carefully. I reached out to people still at the company, interns, former devs, a few loyal senior engineers. I played dumb. Asked if they heard about my sudden leave, pretending like it was temporary. Most of them seemed weirdly nervous. Some didn't respond at all. But one guy, Derek, one of our first engineers, agreed to meet me in person. We met in a diner just outside of Austin. He looked spooked, constantly checking over his shoulder. He slid me a printed email chain under the table. Said he couldn't talk. Just read it. It was an internal memo. From Marcus. Outlining a restructuring plan. Not just to remove me, but to rebrand Swift Track. To take it public. Under a new name. And get this, to patent the route optimizer engine. My engine. Under his name. That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't just betrayed. I was being erased. And that I couldn't let happen. I didn't know how yet, but I was going to expose Marcus. Not with lawsuits. Not with threats. With the truth. Cold, clear, and devastating. The kind of truth that would blow a hole through his empire from the inside out. I just had to be patient. And when the time came, I would make damn sure he felt everything I felt. Twice as hard. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't just break your heart. It rewires your instincts. I used to be the guy who trusted people too easily. Who believed that loyalty meant something. That shared history was unbreakable, but after what Marcus did, I learned to keep my mouth shut, watch everything, and trust nothing. Derek's documents gave me more than just rage.
然后把这个圆的里边向下挖15个深。
The memo included a timeline. Marcus was planning to file the patent under his name in less than 3 weeks, right before the IPO announcement. If he pulled it off, my code, my creation would legally belong to him.
挖好之后，最底下这层铺上沙子。 搭好之后，来到上边，先放一个台阶，然后隔2个放一个石英，
Unless I stopped him.
再隔2个放3个石英，最后一个加高，
Swift Track still had
再隔2个
lawyers,
也放3
PR
个，
teams, and
就是一个
investor
递增的
back.
打法。
If I came at him with accusations
打
and
新
no
柱子的
proof,
时候，前一根柱子的最高处就是新柱子的最低
I
处。
needed undeniable evidence, something that would show the world he'd stolen not just a company, but an identity. And I had just the thing. That private cloud server I mentioned before, I logged in for the first time in years. It still had everything. Every line of original code, dated.
柱子搭到这3小格的时候，放上一排墨地图，
Timestamps from years before Swift Track even had its
然后
first
再放一排
pitch
平
deck.
滑石英，
I even had audio notes.
顶端上都放上一个楼梯。
Early UI sketches stuff I
后
made
边这
in
些
my
也是按照这个方法
apartment
一直往上递
at 3 a.m.
增
with。ramen noodles on my desk and my dog snoring behind me. This was my insurance. And now, it was my ammunition. But I knew documents alone wouldn't be enough. Marcus was a smooth talker. He'd spin it. Say we built everything together, say I was disgruntled, bitter, trying to ruin him. I needed people. Witnesses. And one name kept circling back in my
搭
mind.
到3个宽的位置的时候，搭2排柱子，
Jenny was one of our first
高一个，
engineers.
然后放一个楼梯，
Quiet, brilliant, brutally
然后这
honest.
根柱子比上一个要高2
She
个高，
left the company
同样也
about
放上
a
一个
year
楼梯
ago。suddenly, without warning. At the time,
然后
Marcus
这
said
个
she
只放一个
took a
楼梯，
better offer. But something
把这个
never
给加
sat
高。
right with me about that. I reached out to her. She
也是
agreed
高出
to
2
me,
个
but
高，
only if I promised not to record.
然后底部补上一
Said
个，
she had
再放一排落地
NDAs
竹
up。to her neck, but was tired of keeping secrets for snakes. That's when she told me what really happened. Marcus had been
还剩
slowly
2个的时候
rewriting
换上
key
拼花
parts
石
of
英，
my original engine over time
然后
not
高
to
出4
improve
个
it,
高，
but to bury my signature.
然后剩下这一半
To
就
make
如
it
法炮制。
untraceable. When Jenny raised concerns, he demoted her.
再给大家看一下
When
具体
she
的格数，
threatened to walk, he paid her a fat exit package with strict legal gag clauses. But Jenny kept copies. She handed me a flash drive with documentation comparing my original algorithm to the current Swift track system.
然后开始换里边的
Her
墙壁，
forensic breakdown showed how they kept the core intact but shifted
最上面
variables,
4层换成白色
renamed
混凝土，
functions, changed headers all smoke and mirror
那就可以做
demands
装饰
with
了，
track
可以套一
erase,
些洞，
and interview
然后
with
放上
the
一些
real
装饰，
engineer
花盆啦
behind、the
画了之
engine.
类的。
I used my real name. I shared the original
底下这个
document.
萤石一直放到这些比较零碎的拐角处，这个底下不放，是把上边给拆掉，
Audio recordings.
然后放上萤石，
I even
再
included
补
a
上一个
snippet
树叶
of。my first whiteboard session, dated and photographed. Everything was verifiable. And more importantly, it was human.
然后剩余这些继续铺
It
就好了
showed。how much of myself I poured
接
into
着来到外
something
边，
Marcus
把
had
所有柱子
stolen
中心的一
without
格给
shame.
换成海青灯。
That second article hit harder. This time, I didn't just go viral. I went nuclear. 3 investors dropped out within 48 hours. The board called an emergency meeting. Marcus was forced to step down. And I wasn't finished yet. I watched the live stream of the press conference from my apartment, the same one where ID built the first Pro. Marcus stood there in a navy suit, clearly handpicked by a crisis PR team. His eyes were hollow.
接下来开始放水，
His voice,
给来到最底
usually
下，
slick with arrogance,
只放周围这一
was
圈，
tight and rehearsed.
中间的水它
He
会自动填补上。
apologized for any confusion, cited
放好一层之后，
unfortunate
开始放上边一层，
and announced he was
一直
stepping
放到
away
顶
to
上。
allow the company to move forward. What he didn't say that he was under investigation for IP theft. That age. That
接下来
the
开始做
entire
上面的喷
company's
泉，
valuation had
来到这个
plummeted.
的拐角处
But I didn't need him
打
to
一根
say
柱子
it.
出来，
I saw it in the headlines. I read it in the panic behind his carefully chosen words. I saw it in his body how his hands shook when he stepped off the
然后数
podium.
5格，
That was the
往上
moment
加
I
4个高，
realized I won. But it did.
然后在第2个的位置围上一圈，
But there was also emptiness.
另外一边
Because
也是一
after
样
the。fire fades, you're just left with ashes and memory and silence. People online treated me like, but what none of. The sleepless nights, the friends who cheat,
然后来到中心的这个位
family
置，
who told,
往上搭10个高
the，part of myself I had to bury just to survive the fight. Revenge doesn't heal you. It clears the board. But you still have to rebuild. A month after Marcus stepped,
这个是在第5个的位置围上一圈。
SWHER. Marcus did. What do I want now? The answer did. But it started with this. I didn't want another startup.
然后在最顶端放上
I
水，
didn't want to prove. So I took the original engine, the one Swift PR. I stripped it down, documented every line.
水放好之后，下边这些辅助方块就可以拆掉了。
Used without credit
接下来
by
开
a
始做水里的装
$1 million
饰，
company.
可以把这些沙子铺得
Now
高低
free
错
for
落一些。
anyone who wants. T students, developers, logistics
然后
startups,
再
they
放上
started
珊瑚，还有
tinkering
海泡
with
菜，
it, improving it, teaching
再
it.
把鱼放里边，就完工了。
Became more than mine. It became ours. And you. That. As for Marcus, last I heard, he moved out of the country. No more tweets. No MO. But I'm still here. Still building. Still writing. Still waking up E. And sometimes, late at night, I look BAC. Thank you, Marcus. Because losing ever finally showed me who I really am.